Hey all you cats and chicks out there, welcome back to Control Players Unite. I'm your host, Dr. Red. Today we are presenting on how to play Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX control, i.e. Pidgeot EX control with a really big tank for taking big KOs. Here's today's outline. First, we will cover the two major cards of this deck. Second, we will review some overarching strategies. Then we will explain how to play Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX via the Penny Loop. Then I will offer some recommendations if you're having trouble with this build, and then we will conclude. Also, we are not covering specific matchups because the deck is made to handle all of the archetypes to some degree. As always, it's a question of what your opponent is playing and how you can respond. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, to the effect we are talking about Pidgeot EX control, we're actually covering two bases and how to play both a Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX build and a regular Pidgeot EX control build, so please consider both. Also, this presentation presupposes a base knowledge of the Pokemon TCG and its cards. First, we have Pidgeot EX with the quick search ability, allowing you to search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand. Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX has 260 HP and the Seasoned Skill ability, which decreases its Blood Moon attack by 1 colorless energy for each prize your opponent has taken, which means you can attack for free if 5 prize cards are taken. It deals 240 base damage, and Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX cannot attack on the next turn. We're going to see how these two cards interact momentarily, but first, the overarching strategy of Pidgeot EX control. You want to get Pidgeot EX into play as soon as possible so that you can use the quick search ability to get what you need faster, and what you need is dependent on what your opponent is playing. If you cannot get Pidgeot EX into play quicker, you have a host of backup strategies to lean on via the rest of the deck. Use trainers to prevent your opponent from setting up, and also any Pokemon you can manage to set up. Take KOs if you can and even if you want, but try to wait your opponent out so that their resources dwindle. Recycle the above until you are victorious. But Dr. Red, what exactly am I using? I'm so glad you asked. Here's a sample build. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is not an ideal build. You may want to try something else, but it is enough to get you started. This build is the kind you want when approaching a Pidgeot EX control deck. What you want to do when playing this deck is build up an arsenal of cards in your hand, then start to attack, or else just wait out your opponent. Your opponent might press you, or you draw a bad opening hand, or start an undesirable basic. You have to adapt to your situation, but the variety of cards in the deck helps you. Let's go over some of them. Starting on the top row, fourth from the left, you have Rotom V with the instant charge ability. It allows you to draw 3 cards from the top of your deck, and your turn immediately ends. That's how you build up the arsenal of cards. Next to it, we have Pidgeot V. It has the Vanishing Wings ability. From your bench, you can shuffle it and any attached cards into your deck. It helps to prevent deck out. Next to that, we have Mimikyu with the Safeguard ability. It prevents all damage from EX Pokemon done to this Pokemon. Next to Mimikyu, we have Chi-Yu EX with the Jealousy Singe attack. It mills 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. This helps speed up slower games and forces your opponent to do something. Next to Chi-Yu, we have the new Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX. It has the Cornerstone Stance ability, which prevents all damage from Pokemon with a rule box. It's basically a Alolan Vulpix V-Star on a basic. Next to it, we have Luxray V with the Fang Snipe attack. This allows you to discard any trainer card from your opponent's hand. Next to that, we have Mawile. It has the Tempting Trap attack, which locks your opponent in the active, preventing hard retreat. One example of how the cards interact is using Counter Catcher to gust up benched Pokemon, attacking with Mawile's Tempting Trap to retreat lock it, and using Airy beforehand to eliminate any switch cards from your opponent's hand. There are many other combinations, but that's just enough for now as there are too many to cover. But Dr. Red, what changes with the addition of Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX? Well, with Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, you now have a free attacking, one-hit KOing, tanked monstrosity of a Pokemon. In addition to what we just said, Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX functions as a late-game attacker to clean up your opponent's heavy hitters. While each match varies, of course, your opponent will most likely be worn down, giving you the opportunity to Penny Loop the Bloodmoon. Dr. Red, what's a Penny Loop? This is Penny. It's a supporter card. It states, put one of your basic Pokemon and all attached cards into your hand. It can be in the active spot or on the bench. It can have energy or a tool attached. It all comes back into your hand and not the discard pile. So here's the penny loop setup and execution. If Bloodmoon Ursaluna is not on your bench, get it there. If it is on your bench, get your active Pokemon out and put Bloodmoon Ursaluna in the active. Now, Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX's attack is free if your opponent has 1 prize remaining, but if your opponent has 2 or 3 prizes, you're going to have to energize Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX. Beware of the double turbo energy, as it decreases your attack by 20 damage, and you might need that extra 20 to knock out something like an Iron Hands EX with 230 HP. Remember, Bloodmoon Ursaluna's attack does 240 damage, so 220 is not enough. Still, you're doing 240 base damage and have 260 HP. You can most likely afford to take a hit, but because you cannot attack twice, you have to retreat out of the active. That's where Penny arrives. Pidgeot EX has the quick search ability, so you search for Penny, Penny up the Bloodmoon Ursaluna out of the active, and then, because Pidgeot EX is on your bench, you then move it into the active, but you immediately retreat it because it has a free retreat cost to put Bloodmoon Ursaluna back into the active and attack again. Let's review that. Get Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX into the active spot, possibly energizing it. You attack with Bloodmoon, hopefully KOing something. You then take damage from something and hopefully survive. You play Penny to heal the Bloodmoon and reset its attack. You then shift Pidgeot EX into the active spot. You bench Bloodmoon, retreat the Pidgeot, and repeat the process. You use Pal Pad to recycle the pennies in your discard pile back into your deck as needed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the penny loop. That's how the penny loop works, and in the late game with Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, you can do this more than once. You put what you need in the active spot to hinder your opponent from winning, and wait, if necessary, to use Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX in the fashion described, noting that you could energize it if need be. And this is important, ladies and gentlemen, because this deck hinges on what we just described if you want to attack with it. But Dr. Red, what if something prevents me from doing the penny loop with Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX? What then? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's just how the game is played sometimes. Your opponent sets up quicker, you brick, you prize cards you need, things outside of your control happen. But maybe there's also a consistency problem with your deck. Maybe you're trying to do too much and need to simplify. This is where I have 4 recommendations for you to help you on your journey to building a better Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX control deck. First, assess the problem. And by that I mean, why are you losing? What's the weakness in your build or strategy for the deck? For example, are you KOing too soon or at all? Your opponent might be able to capitalize, say, on a weakened Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX because you don't have Pidgeot EX or Penny or anything else as a backup. So step back. Can you do anything else instead of attack? Most control style players would lean on retreat lock, like with Mawile or Snorlax, or the new Wellspring Ogerpon EX. That's fine. Sometimes that's how it works, but that can get boring, so let's try the second recommendation. Increase attack, by which I mean get more aggressive. Go all out with aggro control or tempo. The reason I say that is because if you want to take care of KOs with this deck build, then why not put yourself in a position to do that? You may not want it to be a control deck with an aggressive element. You may even want to abandon control and go all out aggression, because the control build just isn't for you. Some of these builds are low key on attacking and mostly want to stall the opponent out. Here, I suggest putting in more energy to take out KOs regularly, and might even consider using a Radiant Charizard or extra Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX if you already haven't. And by stalling, I mean like a TKO in this Mike Tyson Punch-Out. And you respond, but Dr. Red, I'm already doing that. What then? Well, increase control. Instead of going to one extreme, try the other. You might be trying too hard to knock out, when really Bloodmoon Ursaluna is again a late game feature. So back off the aggression and instead focus on control. Maybe you need, strangely enough, Bonsly to confuse your opponent and act as a pivot, or spice up the trainers with a Giovanni's Charisma. Perhaps drop the Radiant Charizard or even all the energy altogether. Bloodmoon Ursaluna does attack for free after all. You could also increase your mill options with an extra Chi-Yu EX. Whatever you do, find something that's consistent, because that's the key to a successful deck. And last, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you should just get rid of Pidgeot. One common objection against Pidgeot EX is that because it offers so many options, it actually induces analysis paralysis. players can't make up their minds as to what they want to do. Instead, you might try combinations of the cards we looked at earlier with unlisted ones in order to find a brand new strategy to either get Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX into play sooner or to keep the original strategy with the penny loop. It still remains Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX control, just without the Pidgeot. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. What did I miss? Where am I wrong? Please let me know in the comments. Please take care of yourselves, and may God bless you.